Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Today is the 23rd of May, 2021. It's important to note what day it is today because it's a Sunday and we like to do our AMAs on Sundays. And so, welcome to the next episode of Ask Me Anything on Halal Investing Network. Now, if you notice that I've actually made a new logo for us. Yes, new logo. So happy. And I want to say that today's topic on the AMA is going to be intense. I got a few questions coming out. Let me just have a look. And the questions more are about, of course, cryptocurrencies. Now, cryptocurrencies are the hottest thing right now. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's trying to get into it. I'm getting tons and tons of questions. People are asking me, hey, should I invest in crypto? What should I do? And more importantly, is it halal? And so here today, I am holding this Ask Me Anything. And if you're watching, do drop a comment below. Let me know what are some of the biggest questions you have with regard to cryptocurrencies, whether it's halal investment, whether you're going to be investing in it. In fact, if you just want to say hi, drop a comment to say hi. I do this just for you. So let's get right into it. It's an Ask Me Anything today about cryptocurrencies. So now the question, of course, then becomes, what exactly is a cryptocurrency? So let's answer that question first. What exactly is a cryptocurrency? Now, to understand where this cryptocurrency came about, you got to understand a little bit of history. A long time ago, before I was born, I'm kidding, a long time ago, there was this guy who started something called Bitcoin. His name was Satoshi Nakamoto. Some people say it's a pseudonym. Some people say it's not a real name. It's actually a bunch of people who came together to start Bitcoin. Now, what exactly is Bitcoin? Bitcoin arguably is the most famous and the grandfather and the biggest cryptocurrency available right now. And so what exactly is Bitcoin? Now, Bitcoin was intended, if you do some research, Bitcoin was intended as a way to replace our current monetary system, the currencies that we currently use. Why? So your traditional dollars and cents, right? Like, for example, I'm in Singapore and we use the Sing dollar. If you're in the US, you use the US dollar. If you're in China, you use the yuan. If you're in Malaysia, you use the ringgit. If you're in India, you use the Indian rupee, and so on and so on and so on. So all these are what we call fiat currencies, F-I-A-T, fiat currencies, right? And fiat currencies are governed by the respective government. They're issued by the country, issued by the government, right? And they are used to facilitate the exchange of goods and services. That's what a currency is. And so this chap, this arguably very intelligent chap, Mr. Satoshi Nakamoto, decided to say, hey, if the governments can control all these fiat currencies, which means they can just print it endlessly, they can devalue the currency, manipulate the interest rates, play with it, and eventually the currencies start to become worthless. So why have that? Why not we create something that removes all of this control? In fact, gives the power back to the people, and essentially helps people, facilitate the exchange of goods and services with no central governing body. Then we have something that is equal, and that's how we started Bitcoin. Now, my explanation of Bitcoin is by no means exhaustive. Go to Google, go to YouTube, look up, read up, watch all the documentaries and information about how Bitcoin started, and you'll get more info. But so let's talk about Bitcoin. So what exactly is Bitcoin? It was meant to replace your fiat currencies, but it was meant to do that. Essentially, Bitcoin was built on something called blockchain technology. Now, you want to go a bit deeper, you've got to understand how blockchain technology works. If you start Googling it, you'll start to hear terms like, oh, it's a distributed ledger. What exactly is that? And so if this is a little over your head, don't worry, drop me a text, drop me a comment, let me know, and I'll try to help you along. But so effectively, a distributed ledger system helps somebody keep track of a transaction. That's it, right? That transaction is then distributed to multiple places so that you cannot alter or hack or, generally mess around with that one particular transaction without alerting everything else. So for example, if cup of coffee, right? Cup of coffee. So if someone gives me a cup of coffee and they give me, okay, and I pay you for the cup of coffee, thank you very much. And then that transaction is recorded. It says, okay, Afiq has paid for a cup of coffee, right? Now, the person I buy the coffee from, of course, records everything. It says, okay, Afiq has paid me $1 for a cup of coffee, and that's my receipt, and I'm keeping it. I get a copy, he gets a copy, just between the two of us. Now, if I lose my copy, there's no proof that I ever bought a cup of coffee for him. And if he takes that receipt and he, destroys it and say, oh, Afiq, you didn't pay me. You didn't pay me anything for the coffee. You have now committed a crime. And then I'll say, crap, here's my receipt, which proves that I bought a cup of coffee. But if I lose that receipt, he loses that receipt. There's been no trace that this transaction of me buying that cup of coffee ever existed. But in a distributed ledger system, if I had paid for that cup of coffee, right, and he records it, I record it, and then the copies of these receipts are distributed amongst different people. Now, everybody has a copy, everybody has the same copy. And then all of a sudden he accuses me of not paying for the coffee. I can just say, hey dudes, look around. There's records of me making that paying for that cup of coffee everywhere. It's a distributed ledger, right? And if he tries to amend the receipt and say, oh, no, you see, I charge you $1, you did, it was actually supposed to be $2, and you owe me this extra. And then I come out with my receipt, I say, no, it was shown as $1. Compared to everybody else's ledger, it still shows as $1. So it's distributed. So now it becomes very, very hard to fabricate and try to hack that system because everyone has it. And because these transactions occur so quickly, the only way you can actually hack the system is if you hack the entire world, right? And so that's how the distributed ledger system of blockchain technology works in a nutshell. I'm not doing it justice, do your own due diligence, do your own research, but essentially that's how it works. And that's how a cryptocurrency started. Now, a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin isn't the ledger itself. It helps facilitate the ledger process. Now, so now that we're in the world where there's so many different cryptocurrencies, right? Last count, there were over 6,000 different cryptocurrencies. What does it mean for us? What does that mean for us? And so when we look at the grandfather of all cryptocurrencies, you have Bitcoin. And if you've been following the news, Bitcoin started in a few cents 10 years ago, and then it started shooting up a few $100s and now a few $1,000s. At the high point, it hit 60,000 US dollars, which is insane. And then it came back down. Now we're looking at what, 40,000? I can't remember. And so people are starting to gain interest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general as a way to make money. It's an investment, right? It's an investment. And here's the key. Be wary when you talk about investing and trading. Be very, very wary. Here in the Halal Investing Network, I handle a lot of the passive investing portions. Adi Ismail, my partner, does a lot of the active. Oh wait, he just texted me. Let me see if he can come on. Let me see. I'm going to send him a calendar invite so that he can join us. There we go. There we go. I just dropped him the text. And so he should be joining us inshallah soon. And so now go back to the cryptocurrency. We know that, there are many, many different kinds of cryptocurrencies, and why do they exist? So that's the big question here. Remember, why do these cryptocurrencies exist? We'll answer that. We'll use that to answer some of the questions later on. And so where was I? We were talking about Bitcoin, right? And why it started. And over time, a lot of other cryptocurrencies were spawned. A lot of cryptocurrencies were created, and lots of different names came out. Some of the most famous ones, like Ethereum, right, is considered the second most popular coin, biggest coin other than Bitcoin. But you got to understand the key fundamental here, that these cryptocurrencies are built on blockchain technology. So you've got to understand why blockchain technology is important before you start looking at the cryptocurrencies. Okay. And so the reason why Bitcoin is so interesting and so important is because it aims to replace our current financial system. It intends to replace fiat currency. So you can effectively, pay for goods and services with the same currency around the world. Everybody can accept that now. Currency, think about the currency portion, also very important later on. And so today, some of the questions that we are getting, let me have a look at my thing. Some of the questions, like number one, is investing in cryptocurrency halal? Another question is it already being manipulated by institutions? These are very important questions that we want to ask. The first one is investing in cryptocurrency halal. Okay, fantastic question. Shout out to Muhammad Al-Khatib, my good friend. He's an awesome dude. Look for him. He runs a web development firm, does fantastic work. So if any of you need work done, look for him. Look for him, Muhammad Al-Khatib. So let's answer that question. Is investing in cryptocurrencies halal? There is no long or short answer. There is no short answer for it. There is no short answer. Because if we were to lump all the cryptocurrencies together into the same pot, then it becomes very, very difficult. It's the same thing with stocks and shares, right? I could ask the question that, is investing in stocks and shares halal? Now, that depends, right? That depends. Is investing halal in the first place? Absolutely. So the key word here is investing halal. Yes, it is. Is gambling halal? No, it is not. Gambling is haram. Speculation, it is haram. Speculation, in Arabic, maisir. So maisir is haram. We cannot gamble. So clear cut, investing and gambling. So now we look at our intention. Are we investing or are we speculating? So if we, first off, set our intention right, yes, we are investing. Then we go back to stocks and shares. Are we investing in stocks and shares or are we speculating on stocks and shares? Some of the big counters available out there, people come to me and say, oh, it might go up, so let's do our let's make a call on it, make a bet on it and see if it goes up or if it goes down, or those short sellers when they make money when it goes down, right? So that's speculating. But then we look at investing. And so I'm using stocks and shares as an example first before we go into cryptocurrencies. If I say investing in a stock, is it haram or halal? What am I effectively doing when I'm investing in a stock? I am buying a portion of that company. Here's where the halal, haram, or permissibility question comes in. If the company I'm investing in is involved in alcohol, which is clear-cut forbidden in Islam, we're not allowed to consume alcohol and we should stay as far away from it as possible, is it permissible for us to buy shares of a company that manufactures and deals in alcohol? Short answer, no. We're not allowed to. It's impermissible. It's forbidden. But what about a company instead that does, say, apparel? Just off the top of my head, apparel, right? Clothing. How haram can clothing be? Oh, that's another question. So we have to do our own due diligence and screen that stock for its halalness. So now to answer your question, is investing in stock and shares halal or haram? I would say it's halal if you choose the right stocks and you have the intention to invest and not to speculate, right? There are lots of halal counters out there. If you've been tuning into our Halal Stock Hunters Facebook Lives over the past few weeks, we have our own HIN model portfolio. And one of the counters that we look at is Crocs. This is not, again, disclaimer, this is not a recommendation to buy or sell Crocs, but Crocs as a stock, after we did the screening, it was deemed to be Sharia compliant. And like I said, it sells, well, apparel, shoes. Is it a halal investment play? Yes, it is. Because I want to invest in Crocs for the long term. I see that the growth, the fundamentals are solid, and it sells a relatively good product that serves a problem in the market, which is good quality, cheap footwear. And so Crocs is a halal stock, which I can invest in, not speculate, I can invest in. So what about cryptocurrencies? So now let's go back to that. If it's halal for me to invest in a halal stock, then is there such a thing as a halal cryptocurrency? The question comes up many times in the past, well, in the past few years, actually, ever since I started doing this. And people have been asking me, is investing in cryptocurrencies halal? First off, let's answer the question. Are all cryptocurrencies the same? Short answer, of course not. They're not the same. All cryptocurrencies are not the same. If today we just open a newspaper and start looking, just Google cryptocurrencies, you'll come up with a whole bunch of different names. There are 6,000 over on the market right now. And of course, the first one is Bitcoin, and there's Ethereum, and more famously, ever since Elon Musk started tweeting about it, there's Dogecoin. D-O-G-E, Dogecoin, right? Now, what's the difference between Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dogecoin? And let's go into Bitcoin. Bitcoin by itself has a purpose to it, right? It has a purpose to it. There's a reason why it was created. It creates value. It solves a problem. It has a distributed ledger system, and it aims to replace fiat currencies. Ethereum, on the other hand, was created with the concept of smart contracts, where they build upon blockchain technology to help with transactions and to record that carefully using smart contracts. So if you Google smart contracts Ethereum, you can start reading more about it. Now, these two particular cryptocurrencies serve a purpose. Inshallah, of course, they will create value by solving a problem. That's essentially what a business is, solving somebody else's problem, right? If I solve your problem and you like my service and you pay me this, that transaction is halal, it's fantastic, and it's absolutely fine. Adi is coming on. Alhamdulillah, Adi is coming on. And so on that note of solving a problem, Assalamualaikum Adi, can you hear us? Can you see me?
Yes, can see you, Afiq. Good morning.
Adi?
Yep.
Awesome. I was sharing with our viewers about cryptocurrency. And so let me finish this a little bit and then I'll bring you on board. And so I was talking about cryptocurrencies, right? Bitcoin and Ethereum have a value to it. There is a utility value. People actually use it for something, for smart contracts, and for Bitcoin for the distributed ledger system, and that works, right? There's an actual value use for it. It's useful. And then we look at Dogecoin. It was started as a joke. It's a meme coin. It started a long time ago as a joke. The guy who started it was like, I started it just to be funny, and then it started shooting up, as they say, to the moon. Now, on that note, is Dogecoin halal or haram? Now, the question then becomes, does it fulfill a specific utility, a specific usefulness? Does it have that? My opinion, no, it does not. My opinion, it does not fulfill that usefulness, and it is only as a tool to speculate. And so now between Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dogecoin, which one do you think is halal? You have to make your own choice, because you have to do your own due diligence and decide which cryptocurrencies are the ones to invest in from a halal perspective. It's the same as stocks and shares. We screen our stocks and shares to see, okay, this one is halal, it's got good fundamentals, it doesn't borrow so much money, it's not in a forbidden industry, so we can invest in that. Very similar to cryptocurrencies, right, Adi?
Yep.
So basically, Adi, say hi.
Yep. Yeah, so you have already stated that the utility of the coin is very important. So if you look at Bitcoin, for example, it's a store of value. People are saying that people are looking at it more of like the digital gold, right? And then you have Ethereum. Basically, Ethereum definitely has a lot of functions. It has the EVM, right? EVM basically it stands for. Okay, can you remember, Afiq, what EVM stands for?
EVM is Ethereum Virtual Machine.
Correct, Ethereum Virtual Machine, and also it has the smart contract technology, which allows for transactions to be done in a quick manner, right? And a lot of decentralized apps are actually using Ethereum's technology. Right now, you have like more than 1,000 dApps. In short, okay, decentralized apps or dApps, more than 1,000 apps actually using Ethereum as the underlying technology and platform. For Dogecoin, I think some might say that people like Mark Cuban and Elon Musk, right, is supporting that coin, and therefore it has that utility in the sense that it's accepted as a currency. So, what do you think of that viewpoint?
Okay, let's talk about that for a bit. I wanted to go into the acceptance of Dogecoin as a currency for a bit. And when we look at Dogecoin, right, the creator of Dogecoin was saying that he wants to, after some talks, he wants to develop it further as a currency, as a use for an actual currency. So here's the thing when it comes to Dogecoin. It started as a joke. It gained some traction. and the creators want to actually make it useful, then fine. When it crosses that threshold where it becomes useful, fine, then I think it's a halal investment. And then now we have to answer the question of currencies. Remember, Adi, we spoke about this. When it comes to the question of currencies, the what do you call that? The scholar's stance is very, very clear. In Islam, we're not allowed to speculate on a medium of exchange. In other words, a currency. What is it? What is the purpose of a currency? To facilitate the exchange of goods and services. And like, for example, the Sing dollar. The Sing dollar, if I want to go to Malaysia, right? Sing dollar to Malaysia, what, it's usually about three odd, right? One Sing dollar is about 3 ringgit plus minus. And so I say, okay, I'm in Singapore, I'm holding, say, 10 Sing dollars. I go to Malaysia, I go to Johor Bahru and say, I want to buy stuff. The guy is going to look at me and say, I'm sorry, we don't accept, Singapore dollars. I cannot exchange, I cannot sell you my thing for Singapore dollars. And so I exchange my currency to Malaysian ringgit, right? To Malaysian ringgit. Then I get 30 ringgit. I'm like, okay, then he'll say, okay, fine. Then I'll sell you whatever products I have for that ringgit that you have, because I can accept it. And so by itself, does the Sing dollar and the ringgit have any value? Can we eat it? Can we burn it? Okay, we can probably burn it, but can we eat it? It serves no value, no intrinsic value other than to facilitate exchange, right? And so, and the Muslim scholars are super, super clear. We are not allowed to speculate on a medium of exchange because, number one, it creates, it's a zero-sum game. One of us must lose for the other to win. There is no economic value created. I'm not solving a problem. It's just one goes up, the other goes down, and I make that margin. And so, from an Islamic perspective, speculation on currencies is not allowed. How does that apply to cryptocurrencies? And so at this point in time, are there currencies that are being accepted as a medium of exchange? Say about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, at one point, Bitcoin was being accepted in certain countries where you could buy goods and services using Bitcoin. Then all of a sudden, people got interested in Bitcoin and started shooting up. So its status moved from being a currency, a medium of exchange, to becoming a commodity, where people started hoarding it and holding it as a store of value. And so its status changed from currency to commodity. Now, if you start looking for articles online, looking for scholarly views, it becomes a bit gray. Some places are super gray that says, okay, because at one point it was a currency, therefore you can't trade it. And then some people say, oh, now that it's a commodity, you are most definitely allowed to invest and trade in it. You have to do your own due diligence and take that as your view. I am personally of the view that Bitcoin right now is a commodity. Don't take my word for it, do your own due diligence. But when it becomes accepted as a medium of exchange, as a currency, then I won't be allowed to trade it because there's no economic value, right? And so now back to Dogecoin. If Dogecoin suddenly becomes accepted worldwide, or even in multiple countries as a medium of exchange, and says, okay, pay me in Dogecoin, it's fine. I'll sell you, I don't know, my satay goreng. I'll sell you satay goreng for 1 Dogecoin. That's fine, go. Then it becomes a currency and not allowed to speculate in it. And then we answer that question, what about the other cryptocurrencies? What do you think, Adi?
Actually, right now, that's the reason why I think scholars are divided on this viewpoint on whether cryptocurrency is halal. So you have earlier scholars, when Bitcoin just become popular, saying that because it's a currency, therefore you shouldn't be actually buying and selling currency, right? And also because of the fact that Bitcoin first got well known on the dark web, right? And it was used for actually buying and selling things like drugs and all that. So it is seen as something that is used by criminals.
Yeah.
So if you look at it on that kind of light, then yeah, it becomes like it's quite easy to say that it's not actually Sharia compliant in that sense, right? Because it's used by criminals. Yeah. But as we progress, and as you said, Afiq, that now cryptocurrency it is actually functioning in several ways actually. One is as a currency medium of exchange. You can actually use it to actually exchange for a product, and that is also something that some critics actually also pointed out, that it's not that easy to actually use crypto to buy goods and services, because not all vendors actually accept it, and the technology is not there yet for it to be actually easily be used for exchange of goods and services. But we are getting there. Recent developments include companies like Visa, MasterCard actually coming on board and integrating with cryptocurrencies and issuing cards that act like credit cards if you have collaterals in the form of crypto, right? So
Yeah.
it's a dynamic situation, I would say, right? So as it evolves, then we have the cryptocurrency basically playing several functions, and it means several things to different people, right? So you have it seen as a currency, as a store of value, and then you have some people saying that it's an asset class and also as a commodity, right? So therefore, I think I'm not an expert on this on whether cryptocurrency is halal or not. I guess I leave it to the scholars to decide on that. But I've also read and viewed read articles and viewed videos of scholars talking about it. So these are the several viewpoints which I think they are discussing about, and it makes sense basically. Of course, for us, if you are actually into crypto right now and you have invested, you are considered the top 0.0001% of the world that's involved in cryptocurrency. You are basically uh, new in the game and you are early, basically. And being early in something is good, but at the same time, you got to decide for yourself as well. Look and study the various viewpoints on cryptocurrency, whether it's halal or not, and make a decision on it. And also know, like what Afiq said, do not go into it to speculate. And I think it's quite simple. If you talk about Dogecoin, right now it seems like people are speculating on it. Something that was worth below 1 cent right now went up to as high as 75 cents.
To the moon, as they say.
Yeah, and if you don't know what you're doing, in essence, it could actually be making you lose money. So why would you want to do that, right? So if you are an investor, then look at coins that have utility and is even accepted by the institutions, right? So we have like Grayscale Fund, one of the bigger hedge funds that are actually coming out with products that offer basically their investors to invest in Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? So that basically lends credence, right, to this particular asset class. However, there's again critics saying that what kind of asset class, stores value but falls 40-50%, in a jiffy. So again,
Yeah.
there are critics saying all these things. So you got to actually consider all this before you actually want to go into cryptocurrency, whether it fits your risk profile and whether it's right for you, right?
Correct.
So that's all these things that you need to consider, and you need to actually really do your own research and also seek the advice from others who knows about who are experts in this field.
Absolutely, I totally understand. I totally agree. I mean, from a professional perspective, I will always advocate people do your own due diligence. Have a plan, come up with an investing strategy. Ultimately, don't sell the house and put all your money into crypto, right? Don't sell the house. Don't put everything on one bet. If you want to start investing, right, the strategy is more important. You're gonna have the right allocation to the right assets. You're gonna have diversified assets. You're gonna have some stocks and shares. You're gonna have some, fixed income bonds. So you can have real estate. You can have unit trusts. So many different things, and it's not just crypto. Crypto, fine. If you wanna put some money into it, the professional like myself will tell you don't allocate more than 5% of your overall portfolio, and that's not much, because if you do lose everything in crypto, you only lose at 5%. Of course, granted, different people have different, amounts. Like for me, 5% isn't that big in terms of absolute value. But I know some people whose 5% are like 5 million. They're like, so yeah, do your own due diligence. Can allocate 1 to 5% of your overall portfolio, and that's from a professional perspective. From a spiritual perspective, after all, this is the Halal Investing Network, and we do talk about Islam and how to invest halali. Excuse me while I scratch the cat. She wants more attention. Maybe I can come up with a Sadie coin, a cat coin, right? My cat coin. If you look at it from an Islamic perspective, whatever you invest in, you must, of course, do your own due diligence, whether it's halal or haram. It's the same thing with eating. If I go to a food court, right, and I say, "Ooh, Western stall, wow, chicken chop, sounds good, man," but there's no halal cert, am I still allowed to eat it? We always have to say, we have to be was-was. We have to be very mindful and very careful. And it's the same with our cryptocurrencies or in any kind of investment. You have to do your own due diligence to make sure that what you're doing is halal. You cannot just say, "Oh, okay, my friend says it's halal, therefore it must be okay." That's not the case. Do your own due diligence, do your own research, start reading up about cryptocurrencies. There are those that are marketed as halal cryptocurrencies, which are gold-backed, supposedly. I haven't done much research on these halal cryptocurrencies as of now. And I am continuing my research, inshallah, and I should have an answer on that note. So from that perspective, another question that came up is this, Adi. Cryptocurrency investing versus investing in blockchain technology. Which one is the halal one? Yes. Are you a crypto cat? Oh, yeah, the NFT, the crypto kitties, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Adi, what do you think? Halal crypto versus blockchain technology.
Well, if you invest in crypto, in my opinion, you are also investing in crypto technology at the same time, right? So, but then you got to ask this question: which of these coins basically have technology which is worth actually looking into and investing in, right? So if you look at Ethereum, like I said just now, it has smart contracts technology. It is also backed by more than 50 actually top 500 Fortune companies, 4,500 companies, and basically we have other cryptocurrencies like Polkadot. We have like Chainlink and other cryptos that are basically building upon the Ethereum technology and coming up with their own technology which improves the transaction efficiency, processes, and all that. So just take Chainlink, for example. It has Oracle technology. What is the Oracle technology about? It's basically about having a bridge basically between the Ethereum blockchain and linking it up to external data. And that basically have a lot of world users, right? Something like that. And because most of the blockchains, they are basically working within their own network and basically within their own platform, and it's not able to actually talk, okay, or interact with external data. So you have like this kind of technology and represented by this kind of cryptocurrencies, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so you have things like coins that are meme coins or dog coins, they call it, like Dogecoins. Besides,
I think there was another word for it. There was another word. It was not dog coin, but I'm not going to say it. It's a
meme coin. So people ask me also, I think actually, what are meme coins? I say meme basically is actually culture, which is on the internet culture, and it becomes a coin. And you have names like on the basically, that cryptocurrency is actually being developed by young guys, tech geeks and developers, right? So they give names like pancake swap, sushi coin. So these kind of names are becoming quite cute,
common,
but but it's quite common in crypto, and people become like, how can we take this thing seriously when it's named like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally understand. And so when it comes to that, sometimes when we look at the name of something, it becomes, our first impression of it long time ago. For example, when I was back in banking and this particular cryptocurrency called Ripple, XRP, Ripple first came out, I was like, oh, cool. It's a cool name, Ripple, ooh, right? And I did my own due diligence. I started reading up about Ripple because I was in banking, and Ripple actually helps to facilitate financial transactions. And I thought, hey, Ripple has the potential to actually speed up and make banking transactions a lot more efficient and transparent. Because, in banking, one of the biggest things they talk about is money laundering, criminal activity, and all that. And I think when at that point, I thought that Ripple would actually change how banking works. And now, almost 10 years on, Ripple is being adopted by more and more banks. They're testing it out. They're putting in money into developing the technology further. And so I think that it could be one of those things that change, major change, systemic change that changes something that's so vital to our lives, which is the financial industry, right? And so compare that to the Dogecoin, which was 10 years ago it was nothing, and now all of a sudden it went up because Dato Musk said, "I want a Shiba." I think that was just hilarious. And so when it goes back to this, I think we have to understand that we are in a very interesting and critical point in history. Like it or not, cryptocurrencies are here, right? Time will tell. So okay, 15 years ago, people would say time will tell whether cryptocurrencies will be useful. I think 15 years later, it's been proven that the technology underlying cryptocurrencies is useful. Now it's a question of whether which ones are truly useful and will weather the storm. Of the 6,000 available, I'm certain maybe 90% will just, right? And the other 10% that survive will be the ones that actually add value, will be the ones that actually solve a problem, and these will actually change the world that we're living in, right? On that note, if you look at governments, there are governments who are looking into issuing their own digital currencies. Some are already there, right? Like the news came out, I think last week, or was it this week? I can't remember, about the Chinese digital currency.
The digital yuan?
Yeah,
you're talking about the digital yuan that's being promoted by the Chinese government. But we also have our own SGD stablecoin, right? It's called the SGDR, launched in January, right? And basically, maybe I can just read all this info from this article, which says that it's created by a team behind blockchain startup called Rate, and SGDR is said to be the first Singapore dollar-backed stablecoin, guaranteeing users full redeemability for Singapore dollars on demand, right? And they raised about US$15 million in an initial coin offering in 2018, actually. So this is something like, a token by a Singapore token, right? Which is expect to the Singapore dollars, which is like Tether or USDT.
Yeah, USDT as well. And so, like it or not, folks, crypto is here. It's here to stay, right? It's here to stay. The question, like Adi says, if you are invested in crypto right now, you're probably in the only the top 1% of people who are actually doing it.
Less than that, I think.
Less than that.
0.001.
Yeah, 0.001. And to answer your question, whether it is something that we as Muslims should be investing in, I wouldn't say should. I would say, can we invest it in? I think at this point, I would say it's gray. It is very, very gray, because there is no definite answer to saying which is halal, which is haram. We have to do our own due diligence. It's the same thing with saying, is investing in stocks and shares halal or haram? It's not as gray as that, because clearly do your own due diligence, make sure that you screen the stock properly for its permissibility, then fine, go invest in it, don't speculate in it. And cryptocurrencies, I feel that as we go along, there'll be more and more research done and more opinions from all the different ulama, and we'll say, okay, these are the ones that are fine, these are the criteria that says, that specifies cryptocurrency to be permissible. And these are the points that say, okay, don't invest in these cryptocurrencies because of these reasons. Like, for example, if you look at Islamic contracts like Maisir, Garar, there's no element of risk sharing. Those are the kind of things that invalidate an Islamic contract. And if we look at it from a crypto perspective, as long as a coin does not meet any of these standards, then by all means stay away, right? And I would say, as long as something is still a commodity, you can definitely invest in it. Of course, doing your own due diligence, invest in it, but be aware that you are in what I would say the frontier, right at the edge, the forefront of the investing world. Anything could happen. We're in the wild, wild west. Anything could happen. And so we have to be very, very careful. I would set our intention clearly, what we're doing it, not to elak dosa, but really to understand that when we look at cryptocurrencies from a religious perspective, if it does form, what do you call it? If it does has an actual value to it, and we have the good conviction that this is okay from an Islamic perspective, then fine, conscience clear, conscience clear. One of my friends brought up the fact that it mirrors the whole tulip fever way back a few hundred years back. You know, tulip fever, where you know the cost or the price of tulips just skyrocketed up because of speculation. Is it similar to what's happening in the crypto world right now? What do you think, Adi?
Okay, if you talk about value, definitely is something subjective, right? So when people put value to something, yeah, of course, crypto has value. Even a tulip flower has value. But for the price to actually go to 4 to 5 times of this annual salary of a person for a tulip bulb, I think that's a bit high. But like, who is to actually say that, you know, a small diamond, the size of a date seed, okay, shouldn't cost 10 million, right? To me, it shouldn't cost 10 million because it's a stone. And you know that like something like diamonds, right, is actually being controlled by a group of people
Yes.
actually prevent the price from actually going up by actually controlling the supply. So, but still a lot of people buy diamonds.
Diamonds are what they say. Diamonds are forever, girl's best friend, and all that. I'm so glad my wife doesn't like diamonds.
But even if after people know that it's being controlled by a group of people, that that even blood diamonds and all that, but still people buy diamonds.
Correct.
And they spend, if not thousands, some people spend millions because the color of the diamond is a bit reddish, it has a rarity in there and all that. So at the end of the day, if the price of crypto goes up, to me as an investor and a trader, I would actually ask myself this question: is the value at this point in time? Is there more room for it to go up, or is there, there's no more room, or it's really too expensive? If you think that it's too expensive, then you shouldn't be buying it, right? But if you think that okay, it's still new, we are still, let's say we still have a couple of years ahead of us before crypto becomes mainstream, and right now price is at this point. Okay, Bitcoin is around 38,000 right now. It has fallen from a high of 66,000. Some people see it as being fairly valued at this point because it was a couple of weeks ago double the price. So that again goes back to the concept of whether you find this thing, you researched enough or not to understand what cryptocurrency is and what it's doing for the world. And if you understand that, okay, if you find that after doing your research and you say to yourself, well, this is something that's going to actually revolutionize the whole finance industry, and it's still early, it's still new, and new technologies are always coming out, and it's like back again in year 2000, like when it was like .com boom, right? In year 2000, you could buy Amazon for very cheap, less than than $1,000. Now it's worth $3,000. So at that point, maybe it's worth maybe less than $100, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it is something that you got to do your own research, okay? And at the end of the day, when we put an investment into something, we got to understand and we got to look at the trends. Is there more people coming on board to adopt this technology, or is it going to be something that's not going to be useful at all, right? So your conclusion to that, right, will actually drive your actions, in my opinion.
Understood. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. Is this you can draw so many parallels to all the different asset classes available out there. I remember when the Singapore government bonds came out, right? The savings for SSBs, the Singapore savings bonds. When those came out, all the questions came up. They're like, is this halal? Is it okay? So much so that even Muiz had to step in and say, hey, here's a fatwa that it is permissible. It is a hibah from the government. It's a gift. And again, people have to understand that when things are new, of course, a lot of unknowns are in play, and we have to do our own research and understand our intention and whether we should be investing in it. I, for one, am a big proponent for cryptocurrencies. I see the potential for it. I see that there is a lot of value in blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies in general. Which particular ones which will make money, I don't know. I don't know. As of right now, if you ask me which, if I had $10,000, which particular cryptocurrency I would, I don't know. I don't know. I would say put the 10,000 into the SSB, SSB, and then fingers crossed and wait for it to give you that 2%. Oh,
Yeah,
it's already 11:50. Carry on, Adi. Go ahead.
Yeah, basically, it's something that's hard for you, right, Afiq, to tell someone to actually buy this, buy that. But what you can do is that you can give them basically certain leads, right? Like, okay, look into this, look into that, okay? These things have certain, these cryptocurrencies basically have fundamentals backing it, right? Have some fundamentals, but basically it's back to like any other asset class. If you look at a stock, basically the fundamentals would be looking at the company's health, what is it, serving, what products and services is it producing, and you look at whether there's an audience or a community, a niche, that's actually consuming these products and services. So you got to actually ask yourself that question as well, right? Does cryptocurrency have that kind of clout? Okay, C-L-O-U-T,
yeah.
right? Does it have the backing? Who is backing it? Who is actually, who has come out with this new technology, and how many developers are working on this project, right? And is there community backing it? And how much is its market capitalization? That means to say, how much is the whole crypto, particular crypto worth, for example, right? And you got to actually ask all these questions, right? So if, for example, you look at Ethereum, it has something that's called EEA, an organization whereby companies that are interested to build using Ethereum, basically they can join this particular organization, right? And besides that, of course, you got to look at all the other things and look at how it's going to move forward into the future. And I want to add one more thing. I don't know, Afiq, whether you have mentioned about NFTs.
Oh, no, not yet. I did. I just said CryptoKitty, my cat, but other than that, not yet.
Okay. Yeah, if you talk about NFTs, it's known as non-fungible tokens.
Yeah.
Basically, it is digital assets that is actually encrypted so that you can actually own a particular digital object like image, like music, and basically anything that's digital, you can own it and it's under your name, and you can actually buy it and you can sell it, right? So it's like an asset. So now NFTs is coming up. It's like, the internet in 1995, right? 1995 internet is really new. A lot of people don't even know about it, right? I can still remember when I was in national service, I think. Yeah. And my encik was telling me, Ardi, you take care of the office. Encik, where you going? Oh, I'm going to attend a course on how to use email. Okay. So that was in the 1990s, right? He was attending a course on how to use email, right? Now you ask someone to go for, hey, you want to attend a course on how to use email? The guy say, you crazy, what? It's like something that you can just use, right? And even our kids can just open up the Gmail account, and start using. So at that point, it's new. 1995, it's something that the internet is totally new when it comes to email after that. And, Hotmail was hot at that point in time, and Yahoo Mail and whatnot, right? So right now we are at the 1995 of NFTs, non-fungible tokens. Right? It is something new, and a lot of people don't know what it is, and they're thinking, will this actually, hold value? Because it's a JPEG, it's an image, or a GIF, which you can actually cut and paste and put on your laptop or computer. But do you know that a particular digital art was actually sold, okay, by Christie's, okay, in an auction for about 69 million.
Ooh, hot.
USD. So you can say, hey, oh, this one reminds me of the Tulip Mania. It does remind me of the tulip mini as well. Okay, I'm being honest with you. It does. But right now, the tulip can actually dry up and become worthless. But for an NFT, it's basically encrypted, it's coded, it becomes a digital asset. And if people are actually accepting it, and in the future, you will have like NFTs being sold for about 1 million and more. And it's now 69 million, and it's auctioned out by some Tom, Dick, and Harry down the street. It's actually auctioned by Christie's.
Exactly.
That's a top auction company, you see. So you from there, it's giving you signals, right? It's telling you something. You got to take all this information and you got to connect the dots, you see, because it tells you a story. You got to take a look at it in a macro view, the bigger picture, not just one piece here, one piece of info there, and then after that, you just brush off this particular new technology and say that this one semua ni tak ada benda, data will go to nothing. You cannot brush things away like that, because at the end of the day, it's not just about you, it's not just about me, it's about everyone. Humanity. Is everybody accepting this technology? Right. Is it accepting this asset? You got to think about what others are doing, and all the players, basically governments, big corporations, individuals with which are basically the common people, as well as those people who have money, who have business owners and all that. You got to take a look at the whole thing, a macro view, not just about what what I think or Afik thinks. We are just an individual, just one person, right, in the sea of things, basically.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key here. Like you said, if your Encik in 1995 went for a email course, and I'm just thinking over the past 30 years that I've been on this, I've been alive, and I was the generation that grew up with the internet, right? In 1995, I was 10 years old. The internet was something new. I remember having my Pentium PC, the dial-up modem, that thing. And over time, I saw technology evolve from mobile phones the size of bricks to something, super tiny. And then now phones are getting bigger again, right? And now you have the folding phones, right? Those folding phones are awesome. Technology will move forward regardless. And from an investment perspective, the things that add the most value to this world will be the ones that will become the most valuable things in this world. Yep. Right? If we look at stocks and shares, companies, the most expensive stocks are from the biggest companies out there, which add the most value. Think like, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Google. All these companies are so big and they add so much value. And here's the thing, they are all tech companies, right? And technology is the one that now adds more and more value and changes the world. Like say, for example, in the industrial age, right? In the industrial age, factories were the ones that were at the forefront. The one piece of history I love reading about is about the Ford factory. He made cars, right? The Ford cars. He was the first one to design the assembly line model. And people were saying, oh, all these cars will never take off. We're all going to be using horses and horse-drawn carriages. And when Ford invented the first horseless carriage, and he made it into an assembly line, and now cars are everywhere, right? Who rides a horse now? Now the horses are for playthings for the rich. Only when you're rich, you have a horse, right? Last time when you're poor, you had a horse. The rich had a car. Now the other way around. And that was industrial age, right? And then we are in the information age. Today, we're in the artificial intelligence age, the age of AI and cryptocurrencies. And I really think that it's something worth looking at. That even if we put 5% into our portfolio, of course, again, folks, due diligence, put 5% in your portfolio. If that portion of your portfolio increases and makes it even doubles or triples in value, fine. Then you've made some money, of course, in a halal way. And so I think for today's AMA, I think the takeaway will be this. Don't be afraid of cryptocurrencies. Don't be afraid of new technologies. I wouldn't say embrace it blindly, but of course, do your own research, do your own due diligence, talk to some people, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Adi has a crypto course, right? That he's been running and teaching people about how to invest in cryptocurrencies, the different kinds, the dangers, the risks, and of course, how to look at it from an investment perspective. Would you like to say a little bit more about your crypto course?
Yep, I do. I have a course called the Fast Start Crypto course. Basically, it's a 3 days course, and it's 3 days. It's a solid 3 days. Basically, I'll be teaching about what cryptocurrency is, what are the various cryptocurrency technologies that's out there and up and coming, as well as how it's going to actually change our world in the future. And yeah, but I also teach people in that course how to read charts, how to understand prices, how prices behave, and basically the support resistance levels and the things that we cover in our when we actually look at stocks. So it's actually a mix of technicals and as well as fundamentals, which I think is two important areas when looking at any asset class, right? And in that course as well, I teach about market cycles. And as we can see, the current crypto crash is actually not something new, right? It has happened before. And every time after a crypto crash, you see the Bitcoin prices going higher and higher. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so although of course the duration that it takes after a crash before it actually moves up to a new all-time high, it varies between the cycles, and that is part of cycles actually. Cycles that happened, let's say 10 years ago, would actually be shorter in terms of from the low to the next high, but as it goes, as it matures, right? Just talking about a little bit of market cycles, it will take a little bit longer for it to actually recover. So as you can see right now, you have this crash, but it will take a bit more time, but it will recover, in my opinion, eventually, because I want to state a point. This is one fact. Apple right now, the market capitalization is about 2.08 trillion. Okay, that's one company, I think.
Yeah.
One company out of thousands of companies out there. You have big companies like BMW, you have companies like LV Group and all that. So one company, Apple company, is worth at this point 2.08 trillion. And do you know what's the market cap of the whole cryptocurrency industry, all the cryptos joined together?
What is the current market cap for all the cryptocurrencies, Adi?
It's about 2 trillion. So if you compare, you have the whole crypto, universe valued at 2 trillion, and then you have one company that's valued at 2 trillion. Which do you think has more potential for growth?
I would say, let's see, is it crypto?
Spot on, a pig, right? So you put it in perspective. You have a whole new technology, and you have Ethereum, Bitcoin, you have so many other coins that are actually coming out of new stuff, and which will be used in the future, even be used in taking over some areas of traditional banking, in fact.
Yeah.
And it's worth, as much as one company. So to me, it's quite clear, right, that there is a lot more potential for growth in the crypto industry, in actually looking at crypto as an asset. Yeah, you don't have to actually put a lot of money in it. I have some of my students who basically put $30 in a crypto. He just put a little bit inside Ethereum, for example, or XRP. And he told me, I want to try out first, and then I want to get a feel of how it's like to invest in cryptocurrency. And he said that, and once I feel confident about it and I've done my research, I've actually gotten enough information, then I might want to increase the amount that I want to invest in crypto. I said, well, that's a super plan, I said, right? Because that conviction as an investor, right, as a trader, okay, basically it has to come from within you. It has to come from your experience, in dealing with these assets, as well in researching it, right? Because if you just read it from news and you have not actually tried investing in something, it is just words there. It is not, something that is real to you, compared to somebody who has actually put in $50 and invested in, for example, Ethereum. And then he saw the price go up, double, and then after that came back down again, back to his original investment, you know, from $100 went to $200, it goes down to 100, even though it's a small amount of money. But, you know, I don't think $100 will actually kill you, right? I mean, I'm sure if you are looking to investing, $100 is something that you can afford to lose. Yeah. So, but this $100 is worth a lot when you have invested in something like this, and it goes up and down, and you actually feel the rhythm of the market, right? And you actually begin to be more interested in actually reading up and researching and talking to people about it, and then you come to a certain realization and conviction. If by then you still feel that this is not for you, fine and good. At least you can tell people, I've actually tried in this and this is not for me.
Yeah.
You know, I've done my research, this is not for me. That's fine and good. That's actually something which I would respect. You know, I would, if someone were to tell me, you know, I don't want to be involved in crypto because I've actually tried this, tried that, and, you know, looking at it, you know, this is not for me. I'm actually respectful of whatever decision the person makes. Because at the end of the day, when you invest, if you make money from it and it's halal, you know, it's you and your family will benefit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, we have to just figure out whether it's for us or not, right? For some people, absolutely, they won't touch any kind of investing, and that's fine, right?
Yep.
Some people will try everything and fail at everything and then still keep going, right? Until they find what they actually like. And that's the key here, folks. Figure out what you want to do and try it out, because the worst thing that will happen is that you miss out on a lot of opportunities by just being afraid. And I mean, I teach people about investing as well. And emotions are very, very real, greed and fear. And a lot of people have this idea that because they have failed before, therefore everything else must be the same. And that's not true. I myself have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in failed investments. And yet I have made much more in my other portfolios that I learned the hard way. I learned and I tried and I played with it and I figured it out and I'm profitable. And so I'm saying that here as Muslims, is it haram for us to invest? No, it is not. It is encouraged for us to invest. It is encouraged for us to grow our money, put the money into the economy, get it to work. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, do your own due diligence, speak to a qualified professional before you decide to do anything, join a community, you know, find a mentor, join our halal investing network, for God's sake. It's there. And of course, we'll see you and hold your hand and inshallah help you along the way. I'm looking for any other questions that are coming on board. I don't see any. There was one very interesting question. Yeah, so the question then becomes, what's the difference between us gambling, speculating, and investing, right? Of course, the difference between gambling and investing is very clear, straightforward, folks. With gambling, you have no idea what the outcome is going to be. That's gambling. Put in money, throw the dice, boom, I don't know what's going to happen, random chance. But with investing, you got to do your own due diligence, you know, run your fundamental analysis, you know, look at it from a short, medium, long-term perspective, and then make a decision, right? Check that it's halal, go ahead and do it. And that's the main difference. You have that element of control, which is not present in gambling. Okay, that's the last from me. It is another fantastic Ask Me Anything AMA with my buddy Adi Ismail. Adi, what are your last words?
As always, I always thank the audience for actually hearing us out and, you know, hearing us talk about these things, which is sometimes can be heavy topics, I would say. And for being brave enough to actually become an investor or wanting to learn about how to invest, basically. And I have to understand that, you know, investing is not something that is easy, because there's always that risk of actually being wrong and in your investments. But I would like to remind all of you that we are just living one life, you know, and we shouldn't fear of failure. We shouldn't fear failure, right?
YOLO!
Failure should actually be seen as something good. That's how I frame, you know, my own mindset. Failure, when I fail in something, is actually a feedback mechanism for me to improve, right? For me to become better. And I think I would just like to end this with a quote from Salahuddin, basically, Salahuddin Al-Ayyubi. He says that when I prayed to God to make me stronger, he actually gave me more challenges. So yeah, when you actually go through things or deals and it's you fail in something, it's actually to make you stronger. so that when the next opportunity comes, it will be a success.
Inshallah, inshallah. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. I absolutely agree with that. I mean, be brave enough to fail. Right? Be brave enough to fail. Our education system tells us it's wrong to fail. In my past 15 years of running businesses and all, I find that failure has been the best teacher. And so, folks, I want to thank everybody here. I want to thank Adi. Adi, thanks for your time. Thanks for sticking with me for the past hour. Folks, if you've been watching for the past hour, fantastic. Share this with your friends. Drop us a comment, subscribe, follow, share. Let us know how best we can help you. What are your questions? What are some of the burning topics you want to hear about? And we'll see you at the next one. This is Afiq, Chief Finance Manager at Fasri Finance, partner with Adi Ismail, doing Halal Investing Network just for you. We'll see you at the next one. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.